When Officer Brian Collins humiliated Senator Cassandra Harper, he had no idea his actions would uncover the depths of systemic racism and ignite a wave of protest that would upend his life. What happened next shocked everyone. But let's start from the beginning. The streets of Atlanta basked in the December sun, alive with the hum of activity. At Riverside Diner, a bustling lunchtime spot, the usual crowd of patrons filled the air with the sounds of casual chatter and clinking dishes. Businessmen in suits and women clutching folders discussed deals over coffee, while waitstaff darted between tables. Amid this scene entered Cassandra Harper, a 45-year-old Georgia state senator. Her navy blue suit fit perfectly, exuding sharp elegance, while her neatly styled hair added a touch of sophistication. She had just left a morning meeting and was en route to her next appointment, but decided to squeeze in a quick bite. The line at the counter moved sluggishly as Cassandra scrolled through the latest news on her phone. In a corner of the restaurant, Officer Brian Collins sat with his colleagues. Broad-shouldered and rough around the edges, the 45-year-old officer was infamous for his abrasive demeanor and knack for putting people in their place. His attention snapped to Cassandra the moment she entered. "Look who just graced us with her presence," he announced, his voice cutting through the din of the diner. "Isn't that the senator herself? Or am I mistaken?" Heads turned, eyes briefly flickering to Cassandra, who ignored the comment and continued scrolling. Her indifference only fueled Collins. He stood, grabbed a cup of soda from a nearby tray, and walked toward her. "Excuse me, miss," he said with exaggerated politeness as he approached. "You look so refined. Maybe you need a bit of extra flavor?" Before Cassandra could react, he poured the soda onto her shoulder, leaving dark stains on her pristine blazer. The restaurant fell silent. All eyes were on her as she stood frozen, feeling the cold liquid drip down her arm. Slowly, she raised her head and locked eyes with Collins. "Your name and badge number?" she asked, her tone calm but firm. Collins smirked. "Brian Collins. And what are you going to do about it? File a complaint? Think that'll change anything?" Pulling out her phone, she activated the camera and captured his face. "We'll find out soon enough," she said before turning on her heel and leaving the diner. Within hours, a video of the incident, recorded by a fellow diner, went viral. Outrage erupted across social media, with hashtags like "Respect Black Women," "Justice for Cassandra," and "Police Reform," now trending nationwide. Meanwhile, Collins carried on as if nothing had happened. The following day, he recounted the event to his colleagues with a smug grin. "Put an uppity senator in her place. You should have seen her face," he bragged. But his bravado didn't last long. By noon, local news stations had picked up the story, and soon it spread to national outlets. In one report, Senator Harper stood on the steps of the Capitol, addressing reporters. "This incident isn't just a personal affront. It's a reflection of the challenges Black women face daily. This has to stop," she declared. As her speech aired, investigative journalists unearthed damning evidence. Collins had faced multiple complaints for misconduct, all of which had been quietly dismissed. Under mounting pressure, the police department suspended him. For Cassandra, this wasn't enough. At a press conference, she vowed, "We will seek not only justice in this case, but systemic reform." Protests erupted across the city. Crowds gathered outside police stations and government buildings, holding signs that read, "We stand with Cassandra, justice for all, and police reform now." Collins's suspension only intensified tensions in Atlanta. Hundreds of demonstrators rallied at police headquarters, demanding his termination and immediate reforms. Their signs carried powerful messages: "End discrimination," "Justice for all," and "Senator Harper, we've got your back." Meanwhile, Cassandra met with attorneys and civil rights leaders, formulating a plan to push for systemic change. "We don't just need accountability for Collins," she said during one meeting. "We need guarantees that this won't happen again." Her proposed reforms included the creation of an independent oversight committee to investigate complaints against law enforcement, mandatory bias training, and stricter disciplinary measures for abuse of power. The backlash was swift. The police union condemned the proposals, claiming they would undermine officer morale. The police chief attempted to mediate with compromises, but Cassandra refused to budge. "This isn't about compromises," she stated at a press briefing. "It's about justice and safety for all citizens." Collins, now facing disciplinary action, lashed out publicly, portraying himself as the victim of a political witch hunt. "They're using me as a scapegoat," he argued in a televised interview. But his claims fell flat. Public sentiment overwhelmingly sided with Cassandra. Social media buzzed with new accounts of people who had suffered under Collins's misconduct. Unwavering, Cassandra pressed forward. She spoke at rallies, met with voters and activists, and kept the media spotlight on the issue. During a massive march, she declared, "Change won't come if we remain silent. Every voice matters. Together, we're unstoppable." Her words galvanized the movement, spreading protest to other cities. Civil rights leaders rallied behind her, lending momentum to her cause. As Collins found himself increasingly isolated, the disciplinary commission prepared to review his case. The day of the city council hearing marked a turning point for Atlanta. The chamber overflowed with journalists, activists, and citizens united in support of Senator Harper. "This isn't an isolated incident," Cassandra began, addressing the council. "It's a symptom of a system that enables abuse of power. But today, we have the opportunity to change that." Her presentation was compelling, backed by data, testimonies, and reports of countless ignored complaints. "We must build a system that serves all citizens, not shields those who misuse their authority." Fierce debates followed. Some council members argued against the cost and potential impact on police morale, but Cassandra countered every point with evidence and examples of successful reforms elsewhere. Outside, crowds cheered in solidarity. By the next day, the council voted narrowly to pass Cassandra's reform package. The historic legislation mandated independent investigations of police complaints, established a civil rights protection unit, and imposed stricter penalties for misconduct. As the results were announced, cheers erupted outside City Hall. Cassandra stepped out to address the crowd, her face a mix of pride and relief. "Today we proved that every voice matters," she said. "This is our victory." Collins, meanwhile, received notice of his dismissal. Disgraced, he left Atlanta, his name now synonymous with abuse of power. For Cassandra, the fight was far from over. She aimed to make these reforms a model for the entire state and, eventually, the nation. "We will no longer stay silent," she declared at a rally. "This isn't the end, it's just the beginning." Her words became a rallying cry for justice, inspiring thousands across the country and proving that change is possible when people stand united.